We were so when we were talking earlier, we had to do a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
It was like a 24-piece puzzle.
Yeah.
Now, that was kind of like an intermediate puzzle. This is where it all starts, these kind of puzzles here. How many people were little enough to have had used one of these?
Me.
I still use one of those.
I'm a heck no.
Now, there's about 10 pieces here, right?
Yeah.
And these are kind of easy because why? What makes them easy, guys?
They have outline.
They have the outline so you can just fit the piece right in it, right?
Yep.
Okay, now with that, then we move up to pieces like this one here has 60 pieces, and it doesn't have an outline, right?
Nope.
So, but it does show you what it looks like, right? So, and this is just the states, you guys, so we can figure this one out, right? So then, we move on to something like the Avengers one here that has 100 pieces.
I have something like that, but I have a 100-piece puzzle.
Do you?
Yeah, it's a 100-piece.
Sit down, Jim.
It's a 100-piece puzzle, but it has
Big pieces?
Yeah, 160.
Now, but this still has a picture, right? And then this one here, this has 500 pieces in it. So that means it's just a bunch of little tiny teeny pieces that all kind of look the same. But what can you do to figure these out?
Look at on the sides first.
Okay, so you look at the box, you take your sides first, right? You make your corners and your
You
edges,
make your outline.
your outline, and you try to find things that match colors.
Yeah.
But you use the picture to walk you through it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay? Now, so when you get more pieces, the puzzle gets more what?
Harder. Difficult.
Right? And it takes more what?
Time.
It takes more time.
It gets more easy.
But as long as you have a picture there, eventually what?
It's easy.
You'll be able to finish it, right?
Yeah.
You'll succeed, you'll get it together. Now, what if you didn't, if you have 1,000 pieces, I dump them on the floor, you don't have any idea what the picture is?
It might take a couple of weeks.
It might be easy for some people, but it'd be pretty tough for me. I don't know about you guys. That'd be pretty tough. It'd take a lot more time. You might end up giving up on it. You might be like, this is just too much.
1 year old did it and snapped.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Now let's not talk about puzzles. Now let's switch this around. Let's talk about our lives, right? Now, are there days, I'm gonna ask you guys aren't grown-ups yet, and I'm sure you guys don't have any problems, right? But are there days in your life where things just like don't make sense? Where you're like, you know what I mean, and things happen that you didn't expect to happen?
Yeah.
Or when something you were counting on, just you knew it was gonna happen and it didn't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like you have an opportunity and then poof, it's gone. You're like, wait a minute. I thought, all right. So you might have 2, 3, 4 pieces in your life and they don't even fit together. You're like, wait a minute, why don't my pieces fit, right?
They're too small.
They're too small, they're too crooked, they're too messed up. But you know what? We can take comfort, guys. You know what? It's okay. You know why? Because, you know, we have a God that created us, right? He created us perfect in our own imperfect ways. You know how long He knew us? He knew us before we were born, guys. He has a plan for each of us. And I'm not talking about a man plan like, hey, let's go shoot this turkey, cook it up, and eat dinner, and then we're done. I'm talking about He has a God plan for us. He has a plan for each and every day of our lives. He has the perfect picture, all the pieces of our lives. He knows what they fit together like, and He knows what they're going to look like. I'm going to read you one verse from Ephesians. This is Ephesians 2:10. And I'm going to ask one of you guys to tell me what this means to you. Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. McKenna, what does that mean? Okay, so the first thing, it says we're God's handiwork. What does that mean? Where is creation? You know what a handiwork is, guys? That's a work of art. That's a piece of God that He poured His heart into, and He said, this is what I can, this is my best. And He created man.
And I think it's a very cool thing on the box, but my mom gave that box away.
Yeah. Another thing handiwork means is good works. Handiworks in the Greek connotation, it means good works. So He created us good and good to do good. Okay? Now, if we allow God to, He can put each and every piece of our life together, one piece at a time. Now, these are some things that might happen that when we're following God. I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, but sometimes stuff happens that we don't understand. Does that ever happen?
Yeah.
We might not understand it. Or what about getting frustrated? Sometimes we get frustrated with the way things are going. Does that happen?
Yeah.
What about doubt? Sometimes we doubt that God's really working. We're like, well, I know that they say God does this and that, but right now it really feels like I'm alone. Do you guys ever doubted God, that He was there?
Yes.
I have. But what do you guys, have you guys heard of faith? A word called faith?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dog.
And what can we do with faith?
That's my dog.
We can give it back to God, right? We can give it back to God, and God,
That's my dog.
faith,
Yeah.
can put the pieces together. I'm going to tell you something God doesn't do. He doesn't let us down.
Yeah.
He doesn't abandon us.
Yeah.
And He doesn't give up.
He doesn't give up on us. That's what I was going to say next. And He does not give up on us. Okay? Now, we're going to switch gears now. We're going to go to Judges 6 and talk. What did I say we're going to talk about today? Who's the guy we're talking about? Gideon. Now, just a little. So Gideon's living in a time when the Israelites, so this is a surprise, you guys have never heard this, but the Israelites turned their backs on God and they're being disobedient. Has that happened before with the Israelites? McKenna, have the Israelites screwed up before this? With Moses, with Joshua, and they've kind of been doing this on and off all the time. So God is punishing them. And you know what He's doing? He's sending the Midianites to punish them.
What is that?
What are the Midianites? I don't have a matter of fact, John.
I do.
I don't know what the do we have something that can show them what the Midianites are and what's going on here?
I do. I read the.
Do we have something?
Do we have something on
Yes,
cue?
we have something.
Let's watch this video. Maybe it'll tell us what the Midianites are.
I do.
This time in Israel, and a palpable sense of anxiety was in the air. At any moment, the wary farmers might lift their eyes to see a tidal wave of Midianite soldiers pouring down from the hills like a flash flood from a broken dam. The Bible describes the Midianites as a nation of grasshoppers. Whenever the harvest was ripe, they would descend upon Israel's fields and crops in vast numbers, like a swarm of locusts, leaving nothing in their wake but destruction and desolation. The Israelites went on the defensive, hunkering down in caves, hiding in the mountains, and building protective strongholds. The nervous harvesters quickly reaped what they could and hid it away in anticipation of an imminent invasion. God had a plan to deliver Israel from the hand of Midian, and He had chosen just the man for the job. But God's choice seemed highly unlikely. Gideon was not a superhero by any stretch of the imagination. He was a victim of his society's ills, a man who had been influenced by the climate of cowardice that had crippled and enslaved the Israelites. He was such a prisoner of fear that he would hide in a winepress to thresh his small harvest of wheat. A winepress is no place to thresh wheat. But Gideon had chosen this inappropriate place because he was afraid of the Midianites. He was afraid of losing his harvest and his life, so he hid both underground. It was in this dungeon of fear that the Lord found Gideon, frustrated, trembling, and perspiring. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of fearless courage." No one would have anticipated the Lord's declaration that day. Gideon, the Lord says, "You are a mighty man of fearless courage." Where others saw a coward, God saw a deliverer.
All right, so now you guys have a little bit of an idea of the Midianites. The Midianites, they're cool, huh? They're like our friends. They come in to help us and make our crops grow and make us successful. No, they come to kill and destroy and pillage and burn. But why did they come? They came because the Israelites turned their back on God. They earned God's wrath.
Are they Christian?
Huh? Well, Jesus hasn't come yet, so we can't call them Christians, because Christians would be the followers of Christ.
They were God's people, chosen people.
Now, yes, Jeffrey, real quick. Like a swarm of locusts that come through to destroy. Now, there was like all together out of all the people that came, there's like 135,000. But when we're talking about what we're going to talk about now, there's going to be 15,000 Midianites here, and we're going to start and see what we can do against them. All right? So I'm going to start reading. It's 15,000. And I'm going to read from Judges chapter 6, verse 11, 12, and 13 first, okay? So this is, if you guys have your Bibles, it's Judges 6, 11, 12, and 13 is the verses. I'm going to read a lot of verses from Judges. So pay attention, you guys, because we're going to have to ask you a few questions after this to see if anyone was actually listening. Or if I was talking loud enough.
Judges 6 what?
6:11. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Bezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all the wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." So the angel of the Lord came to Gideon to call him out and said, "You're the one. You're going to help save the Israelites." And he said, "Wait a minute. If you're with us, why is all this going on?" Right? Because it's bad. It's looking bad for the Israelites right now. Okay, so I'm going to keep going on. I'm going to read verses 14, 15, and 16. The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." Gideon is not a warrior, you guys. He's a farmer, okay? He didn't believe the Lord could use him to save Israel. Gideon kept putting God to the test. God, but this, but that. And God passed every time by saying that, "I want you to be Israel's hero." Now, yes, Jeffrey, real quick. I'm talking in between verses, but I just read 16. Was the last one I read. So this is what happens now. God tells Gideon to raise an army, you guys, right? He doesn't have an army. So Gideon sends word to all of Israel. He wants volunteers to fight the Midianites. Thousands of people come. He put the word out and they coming. They showed up, right? They joined him and prepared to battle. Now Gideon thinks he's got it figured out. He's like, "Yeah, we got 30,000 men now and we're fighting against 15,000 Midianites. And I think we're better soldiers anyway, so we're going to wipe them out." Gideon knows exactly what's going to happen now. He figured out what God's putting together. He's got it all figured out, right? Nope, he doesn't have any clue. God's got another way he's going to do it. This is a curveball. This is what's called a curveball. It's coming at you straight and the last one takes off to the right. So now I'm going to Judges, still in Judges. We're starting in chapter 7. I'm going to read 1 through 8. Chapter 7, starting on 1. Early in the morning, Gideon and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me." God just said, wait. God said get an army. So Gideon got the army. He got a big army, big enough to win. They feel good. And God said, "You got too many people. You guys are going to think you beat them. You're not going to believe that I did it." God says, we got to get rid of some of these men. Yes, Jeff?
Can I tell you how much they end up with?
No, I got to get there myself. I got to build this up, man. It's a good story. We can't just jump to the end. So, this is how we're going to get rid of these people. God says, "Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 men left while 10,000 remained. So 22,000 men were kind of scared to begin with, and they weren't even probably going to do much good anyway, so they left. Now we got 10,000 left. So we had 32,000. We're going against 15. We got 10. They got 15. Now we're still outnumbered, But I think with 10 we might be able to get them, right? We're good fighters.
No.
We're fighting for our freedom. We want to do this.
No, not even.
Okay, now in verse 4, the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you. There. How do you think Gideon's feeling now, you guys? He was feeling good about having 30,000 men. Now God's telling him that you had too many with 30,000. You got 10, that's still too many. How do you think he's feeling?
Sad.
He's a little nervous maybe, but he's trusting that God is going to do what he's going to say he's going to do. So he's going, okay. So he brings them down to the water. And he says, this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord said to him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps, from those who kneel down to drink. So there's, out of 10,000 men, some of them go up to the water and they kneel down, and they drink it like this, Some of them walk up to the water and they get in their hand and they lapped it up. You know why that meant something? Because they were still on their feet. They were still ready, right? The ones that kneel down, they can't do nothing. They're not even looking. They're just drinking water. Yeah, exactly. So out of all these 10,000, 300 men drank water and lapped it like dogs from cupped hands. All the rest got on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. How many do we have in our army now?
300.
How many we start out with?
30,000.
Is this a good thing or a bad thing that we went down? It's because whose plan is it?
God's plan.
Gideon is doing what he could have took the 30,000 men and said, we got enough men, we can beat them, and stop listening to God. I bet there's people that have done that too, where things get real good. Oh God, I appreciate you getting me here, but now I can do it on my own. Have you guys ever got it where things are good and you're not asking God as much as you were? Kind of start doing things on our own way. But Gideon didn't do that. He did it God's way. Now I'm going to read 9 through 14. Now at the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. During the night the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it into your hands. If you are afraid to attack, God even said, if you're afraid, look, you can do this. Go back down to the camp with your servant Purah, and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. God said, go sneak over to me and see what they're talking about and see how that makes you feel. So he and Purah and his servant went down to the outposts of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern people had settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. That means, you guys, there were a lot of them. They were spread out everywhere. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and his whole camp into his hands. So they're listening in, and what are they hearing?
A dream.
A dream that who's going to lose?
The Gideons.
The Midianites.
Yeah.
Right?
Who's the Gideons?
Now,
Gideons.
so he had them cut down his force to 300 men, and now it's time to go to battle. Now we got 300 men, we're ready to go against the 15,000. So I'm going to read 16, I'm going to read the 16 to 21. Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars into the hands of all of them with torches inside. Watch me, he told them. Follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are now with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp blow yours and shout, for the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and the 300 men with him reached the end of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch. That's when everyone goes to bed. They